mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate. Help me in my quest, permit me to pass the ultimate test.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله الأمين. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to Ask Huda, coming to you from Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. This program will not receive any of your phone calls, as it is dedicated to answering your emails. So if you have a question, I would request you to either post it on the internet, send it by email, or you can postpone it until we have an episode that is live and we can inshallah attend your queries. Our first question is from Brother Abdul Rahman, and he is from New York. He says that, I'd like to know, if one is sick and cannot go to the mosque, can he pray Friday prayers, Salatul Jum'ah, by watching the Jum'ah prayer in Mecca? Also, what is the best way to ask Allah for forgiveness? Regarding the first part of the question, whether it is Friday prayer or the daily congregational prayer, you cannot pray it unless you are with the congregation. And that is why it's called Salatul Jama'ah, prayer in congregation. So if someone lives in a high-riser, in an apartment, and just below him there is a masjid, and the people pray in the masjid, can he overlook the masjid from his house, from his bedroom, pray with them in congregation? He hears the adhan, he hears the iqamah, he hears the recitation of the Quran. The answer is no. And the reason is because he is not with the congregation. Therefore, his prayer would be invalid. Now, it is even worse if a person prays behind a TV set, or making the TV set his imam. So he is in Mecca, but instead of going to the haram, to the holy mosque, he decides that he wants to go, well, actually he decides that he wants to stay home, and he wants to pray in his living room. And this is not permissible, and his prayer is invalid. You have to be with the congregation. If you are sick, with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, Allah has given you the permission to pray in your home. Allah does not want you to kill yourself or to torture yourself. It does not benefit Allah Azza wa Jal, and Allah does not burden us with such things. If you're sick and you're unable to go to the masjid, you have the excuse to pray in your home. As for the second part of the question, which deals with the best way to ask Allah for forgiveness, there are numerous ways of doing that. But we have an authentic hadith where the Prophet ﷺ told us about Sayyidul Istighfar, the master of seeking forgiveness, meaning the master of supplications. And it's a long and beautiful hadith, not that quite, it's not that long. All what you have to say is, Allahumma inni abduka wa ibnu abdika wa ibnu amatika, and you go on saying the dua. Well, this can be also, what I've just quoted, can be for reciting the Quran and concluding the Quran. But Sayyid al-Istighfar begins with, Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa ant. Oh Allah, you are my Lord, and there's no God worthy of being worshipped except you. Khalaqtani wa ana abduk. You've created me and I am your servant. وَأَنَا عَلَى عَهْدِكَ وَوَعْدِكَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُ. And I am to fulfill your pledges, that is my pledges to you, and to be on my allegiance to you and promises to you. And then you go on to confess of your shortcomings and to admit Allah's blessing and favors over you, and then you seek Allah's forgiveness. It's a beautiful hadith that the scholars have explained and interpreted to us, though it does not need an interpretation. This is what the Prophet called ﷺ, the master of supplication of istighfar. Now, if you would like to only ask Allah for forgiveness by saying astaghfirullah, or you say Allahumma ghfirli, all of these are possible and acceptable. If you say what Adam and Eve said, peace be upon them, رَبَّنَا ظَلَمْنَا أَنفُسَنَا وَإِن لَمْ تَغْفِرْ لَنَا وَتَرْحَمْنَا لَنَكُونَنَّ مِنَ الْخَاسِرِينَ. Also this is acceptable. So the sky is the limit. Any way that you seek Allah's forgiveness by repenting to Him, by showing Him sincere and true remorse, and by saying it with your tongue, I seek Allah's forgiveness, Allahumma ghfirli, or saying the master supplication of seeking for forgiveness, this is all inshallah valid. Sister Maria says, Assalamu alaikum, I'm a revert in Islam and presently working in Saudi Arabia. I was raised as a Catholic by my parents, but alhamdulillah, they don't have any problems with me being a Muslim. One thing we don't agree about is, when I decided to get married, I met a good Muslim and proposed to me. He said he wanted to marry me because that he wants it, that is the relationship, to be lawful. And her mother learned about it and she opposed this, she refused it, and she stood against it. Now Sister Maria says that she knew this man for the past 2 years. She'd known him as he was a co-worker. He was a colleague at work. But he resigned his job because her mother did problems for him at work, and then he just decided to quit. Now, should I be guilty of committing disobedience to my mother? She is not a Muslim, but I am, torn between marrying and obedience to my mother. Am I committing a sin? First of all, we have to know that when a person accepts Islam, this means that no non-Muslim has power over him. And that is why if a female accepts Islam, once she wants to get married, as we know, marriage is not correct and accepted unless it has the conditions fulfilled. And among the pillars of marriage is the consent of the guardian and his approval. And usually the guardian is the father. So a woman cannot marry without the approval of her father. Now her mother approval or disapproval does not affect the marriage. So if the father says yes, then the marriage is correct. Whether the mother approves or disapproves, the marriage is correct. But there's another condition, that is that the guardian has to be of the same religion of the woman to get married. Meaning, if I'm going to marry a Muslim girl, her father has to be a Muslim so that his consent would be a condition and a pillar of the marriage contract. So if she's a Muslim and he's not, he's a Christian, I do not seek his approval and I do not take his consent because it has no value. And even if he does give me his consent and I do the marriage contract, it is not valid. Her guardian becomes the Islamic judge because she's a Muslim and her father is not. We look at any Muslim relative of hers from her father's side. So if she has a brother who is a Muslim, he becomes her guardian. Even in the presence of her Christian father, he becomes the guardian. If she has a Muslim uncle, a paternal uncle, he becomes the guardian. If she does not have anyone Muslim in her family, in this case it goes to the Muslim judge or to the Muslim ruler. He takes over and becomes her guardian. Now, in non-Muslim countries, there isn't any Muslim judge or Muslim ruler, so the Imam of the Islamic Center takes this role and he approves or disapproves of the marriage of a woman to another man by looking into their case and checking on the man whether he's suitable or not. If it's the other way around, if the girl is a Christian but the father is a Muslim, the consent of the father has no value because the difference of the religion. Though he's Muslim, yet his daughter is Christian. So this cannot be done in this case because the father it's a difference of religion. In your case, because you are a Muslim, your guardian is not your father who is is a non-Muslim. Your guardian becomes the imam of the Islamic center, or if you're in a Muslim country, the judge or the ruler, the Muslim ruler. Your mother's disapproval has no value in the sense that the contract is correct. So if she opposes your marriage and you still go ahead with it, you are legally married, Islamically married, and your marriage is correct as long as the man is a Muslim, alhamdulillah, practicing, the conditions are fulfilled. However, it would not be advisable for you to go against your mother's will, in the sense that try to combine all views. Try to convince her, try to humiliate yourself to her and say, Mother, this is a person I know, he's good, what you have heard is only hearsay and nothing to prove it. If she agrees, alhamdulillah. If she doesn't, and you see that this is a suitable person for you to get married to, go ahead and marry him. And then there's no sin in disobeying your mother concerning this bit, inshaAllah. Raluka has a question and says, I am a new Muslimah living in a non-Muslim country and a very oppressive country towards Muslims. Her family is also against Muslims and is extremely difficult for me to practice my religion. I'm in a situation that I cannot live on my own without my parents' help. When I pray, my mother always shouts and curses me, and it hurts me very much. I love my family, but I wish to be far from them in order to practice freely my religion. Is this haram that I wish to be distant from them? Actually, it is not haram to have such a wish, because as you've stated, you love your parents, you love your family, and the only reason for you to have such a wish is because of the way they're treating you. So this wish only came up because of their abuse to you, sort of to speak, and because of their treatment, and because of your mother's shouting and cursing you whenever you pray. Now, because you do not have the means to migrate or to move into a better situation, the thing I would advise you to do is that you stay and remain with your parents. They can take good care of you. They would not let anything harm you. It is much better than moving to a friend's house or to a relative's house or to a campus or whatever, thinking that you would be able to practice your religion freely, but on the other hand, you don't have someone to take care of you. So I believe that you should try your level best to be kind to your mother and to your father, be obedient. When she curses, when she shouts, as if she did not say anything, try not to pray in front of her so that she would not go to such a level. And always remember that you are in jihad. What you're suffering and what you are tolerating, Allah will reward you for that, but you have to be respectful, tolerant, and obedient to your parents until Allah Azza wa Jal makes a way out for you. I believe we have a break, so stay tuned.
All the prophets are brothers, and they represent the same message. What was the call of the prophet? what was his invitation? He was inviting to what? So the Prophet said, "O Allah, grant your mercy on the one who is tolerant if he sails, on one who is tolerant if he buys, and one who is tolerant when he seeks his rights."
In this program, Sheikh Abdul Rahman Damashkiya presents Reminders, a bouquet of various reminders and admonitions that we need to strengthen our faith, taste its sweetness, perfect our acts of worship, and refine our morals.
Try to discipline them in the best way. Those daughters will be his shield. That means those will be the reason, the cause of his protection from hellfire. Because of what? Taking care of them. What you have in this life, no matter what you have, is less, and it is temporary.
Huda TV wishes you and your family a spiritual and rewarding Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Sister Noor from Saudi Arabia sent us a number of questions. And she says in her first question, is it allowed to pay zakat in a form of sending or paying someone to perform umrah? And before answering this question, first of all, if you refer to verse 60 in chapter 9, Surah At-Tawbah, Allah Azza wa Jal has listed the categories of the recipients of zakat, 8 of them. And the first two, al-fuqara wal-masakin. So the first two of them are those who are poor and those who are needy. And a lot of the Muslims ask, can I give my zakat to so-and-so person? Can I give my zakat to my relatives? Are they legible for zakat or not? And they have lots of questions that if you understand who to give it to, that would be easy for you to figure out in the future whether to do it or not. Al-faqir and al-miskin, the poor and the needy. If each one of them is used separately, this means that they share the same meaning. But once they're combined, each one has a different meaning. So faqir means someone who is really poor. He does not have what he needs, barely food to eat. So he is rock bottom. While al-miskin is someone who is better and a little bit well off than the poor. Yet he does not have what is enough to sustain an honorable life. For example, a person who does not have dinner is a faqir. But if a person has enough money to eat for the whole year, however, he does not have tuition fees for his kids at school, he's a miskin. Can I give him zakat? The answer is yes, because this is something that he needs, yet he cannot pay for. If he needs money to pay for his medication, for his medical treatment, and he cannot afford that, though he has a car, though he lives in a house, though he has a monthly income, but it is not sufficient to grant him an honorable life. See, I'm not talking about changing car models. He has a 1990 model, he would like to replace it with 2011, for example. No, this is luxury. I'm talking about the necessities of life. Someone who has a daughter and someone proposed to her and he wants to marry her to him. He wants to give his daughter in marriage to this man. But he does not have money to have a proper, normal party. He does not have enough money to buy a wedding dress or to do what's necessary for a girl to get married. Then I can give him from zakat money, and so forth. Now, I'm talking about necessities, things that are necessary in life. If a man wants to change the furniture because the color is fading, this is not a necessity. Now, in the question of Sister Noor, she's asking about giving zakat money to someone who wants to go for Umrah. Is going for Umrah a necessity? Well, to some would say, yes, it is. Going for Hajj is a necessity. The answer is, well, what are the conditions that Allah Azza wa Jal has put for going to Hajj or going for Umrah? That you are capable, that you are financially able to go. So if you don't have the means to go for Hajj, it is not mandatory. And it is not even permissible for you to borrow money to go for Hajj. Why is that? Because having the burden of debt on your shoulders is far greater than not performing Hajj because you don't have money. Allah tells us if you do not have money, then you have no problem. Hajj, you are exempted from it until you find the financial support to do this. Therefore, to answer Sister Noor's question, it is not permissible to give zakat money to someone who wants to go for Umrah. But if he's a poor person, he doesn't have food, he does not have money to pay the rent, he does not have the necessity of life, and I give him zakat because of that, and without my consent or even my consultation, he goes and offers Umrah with that zakat money, this is up to him because I gave him the money for the fact that he's a needy person. What he does with it, this is not up to me. Her second question is, where is the miqat for Umrah pilgrims coming from Malaysia? So that they would say the ihram and announce the ihram from there. And if they're going to Medina first before performing Umrah in Mecca, what would they do? Again, the issue of ihram, if you understand it, then you don't need to ask people about it in the future. The Prophet ﷺ designated 5 places that surround the holy shrines of Mecca. And he said that whoever is coming from outside of this circle to Mecca with the intention of making ihram for Umrah or Hajj, for pilgrimage, then he has to perform his ihram, he has to announce his ihram at these locations or what is adjacent to them. So he should not penetrate the circle without offering ihram. And he told us that Dhul Hulayfa is for the people coming from the direction of Medina. He told us that Juhfa is those coming from the north, and Yalamlam those who are coming from the south, and that Irq for those who are coming from Iraq area, and Qarn al-Manazil for those who are coming from the east. These are the 5 mawaqit, and they form like a circle round the holy shrines. If people are coming directly from Malaysia, from Indonesia, from Singapore, from Thailand, from India, anywhere east of Mecca, and they're flying to Jeddah, they have to pass over Qarn al-Manazil. And this is known as As-Sayl al-Kabir, which is in Taif. It's a city east of Mecca. So when they fly, the captain usually about 15 to 25 minutes before landing in Jeddah announces that we're approaching the miqat zone. So those who are intending to make ihram for Umrah or Hajj, they should do it now. Once he says this, you just simply, after wearing your ihram, you say labbaik Allahumma Umrah or labbaik Allahumma Hajj, and you intend that you are in the state of ihram. And as simple as that. But if, as the sister says, they're going to Medina first and then they'll drive or fly to Mecca, in this case their miqat changes because they're going to Medina. So when they are going from Medina to Mecca, their miqat becomes the miqat of the people of Medina, which is Dhul Hulayfa, known as Abyar Ali. So for those who come, they are not allowed to offer their ihram. This is her fourth question. She says, is it allowed to have the niyat al-ihram of Umrah from Jeddah if we are staying in Jeddah? This again depends. But before going to that question, let me finish the second question. If you're going to Medina first, you make your ihram from Medina. If you're going to Mecca first, then you make your ihram from the airplane when you are coming to Jeddah. Or if you came without doing ihram and you landed in Jeddah, you are forced, you're instructed to go to your miqat and offer your ihram from there, because the Prophet said ﷺ that this is one of the mandatory things of ihram, that you offer your ihram from the miqat. What if a person came to Jeddah, did not wear the ihram, did not announce the ihram, and is unable to go to the miqat, but he wants to go for Umrah? He's either unable or he does not want to do it. Well, the answer would be that his ihram from Jeddah is valid, but he's sinful. And we say that he has to slaughter a sheep as a fidya, as an expiation for not doing something that is mandatory, which is offering ihram from the miqat. And he would be sinful if he did not have the legitimate excuse. Some people just say, I don't want to do it from the miqat. I want to do it from Jeddah, from my hotel. What are you going to do? Sue me? Well, I'm not going to sue you, but you're going to be sinful for that. You have to pay the expiation and you have to seek Allah's forgiveness, because you are doing something deliberately that you know that angers Allah Azza wa Jal. The third question says that, do we need to put on the ihram attire from Malaysia? Do we have to do this? Do we have to wear the ihram from Malaysia? The answer is no. You are obliged to wear the ihram from the miqat. So if it's 9 hours flight, you can wear your normal clothes, fly. Just before half an hour from landing to Jeddah airport, you can go to the bathroom or to the toilet, change, wear your ihram attire, and once they say, now we're passing the ihram miqat, you say, labbaik Allahumma umrah. As simple as that. The fourth question says that, is it allowed to have the niyat al-ihram from Jeddah if we're staying in Jeddah? Depends. It depends on your intention when you came to Jeddah. So if someone flew to Jeddah for the weekend or for 7 or 8 days holiday or business, and he did not have the intention, none whatsoever, to perform Umrah, he did not even think about it. Once he landed and did what he wanted to do, some of his friends said, what about we go to Mecca and make Umrah? And then he thought of it and said, okay, that's a good idea, let's go for it. Do we tell him, go back to your miqat, which is Taif, or to Rabigh, or to wherever he came from? And the answer is no, because his intention came up when he was within the circle, within the miqat zone, inside. So people living in Jeddah, people living in Bahra, people living in the areas inside the mawaqit, they make their ihram from their location, from their homes. So this individual who came without the intention of Umrah, we tell him, you make your intention from your hotel room or from the house you're living in, because this is what you have to do. But if you came firmly wanting to make Umrah while doing your business or visiting someone, then the answer is no, you have to go to the miqat and offer your ihram from there. We have a short break. Stay tuned and we will be right back, inshallah.
Ask Huda.
Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to a new edition of Ask Huda.
I have 2 questions.
Please go ahead. You can read it in Arabic and you can also understand the meaning in your own language. the different tafsir and the interpretation of the meanings of the Quran are available in almost every language that exists on earth by the grace of Allah. The water of Zamzam is for whatever intention you drink it with. Salih from Egypt, his father has the way, and he asked about how can he help him. Very good question.
Can we give a zakat to any of the dawah centers?
The ibadah or the act of worship is a part of the unity of worship. It has to be paid to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and in accordance with the guidance of His Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Sister Noor still has a question that we did not deal with, but before going to it, the fourth question regarding offering the Niyat al-Ihram from Jeddah. Those who come with the intention of Ihram for Umrah must go and make their Ihram from the Miqat. Those who do not have the intention of Ihram for Umrah or Hajj, and it came up while they were in Jeddah, they can make their ihram from their hotel rooms. They don't have to go to the miqat. There's a third category, and those who are not certain. So if someone comes for a business trip and he has 5 days, and he has a lot of meetings, and he's not sure if he would be able to make Umrah or not because he does not know of the time constraints. So if he says, okay, if time allows me, I'll make Umrah. If not, maybe next year. If this person is sincere and he comes not knowing exactly what his conditions are, if he finishes his work early and is able to offer Umrah, he would make his ihram from Jeddah itself, from his hotel room or from where he's staying, because he did not have the firm intention to make Umrah. And hence, he is permitted to make it, that is ihram from Jeddah. The fifth question and the final question is, she says, I'm staying and working in Jeddah, visiting and performing Umrah in Mecca whenever times permit. Do we need to do Tawaf al-Wada' whenever we leave Mecca? Well, you have to know that Tawaf al-Wada', the majority of scholars say that it is only required when you perform pilgrimage, when you perform Hajj. However, they say if you would like to offer Tawaf al-Wada' after you finish your Umrah, this is recommended. This is preferred. You have no problem in that. What people believe, that is, we live in Jeddah, we live in Mecca, and before going back for vacation to our home country, it's mandatory to offer Tawaf al-Wada' or the farewell Tawaf. This is wrong. It is not mandatory to do this thing. You could work and live in Jeddah or in Mecca for 3-4 years, and you decide to leave to any country or back to your own country for vacation or for good. You are not required and you are not even requested to offer Tawaf al-Wada'. This is a misconception. Tawaf al-Wada' is either after finishing your Hajj and you'd like to go back to your country, this is okay. This is mandatory. It's not a choice. Or you offer it after performing Umrah, and this is recommended, but it is not mandatory at all, inshallah. Safura sends us 2 questions. She says that if a husband and wife are not in physical relation for more than 4 months, where is this relation heading to? And is it permissible? That's the first question. Well, the first part, where is their relationship headed to? I have no idea. If a man and a woman don't have any relationship for 4 months, they have a problem. If it's physical, they should go and consult a doctor. If it is not physical and it is lack of interest in each other, then they should do and invest more in their relationship, trying to get back some of the magic they had in their marriage earlier. But if someone is not taking care of himself and is not even interested, then this person has a problem. If they do not have this intimacy due to fights and quarrels between them, they should try to solve their problems, and I believe that they should have marriage counseling if they are unable to do it on their own. I receive a lot of calls from sisters and from brothers complaining about their marital life. And the biggest problem in marriage, not that you do not know your rights, it is that you do not know your obligations. Each part in a marriage, each spouse always demands his rights and never looks at his obligations. You have a lot to do, but you never seem to care about what you're supposed to do. You always demand your rights. Where are my rights? Why didn't you do this for me? This is my God-given right. And this is wrong in a lot of the problems that come between the spouses. Also, these problems are attributed to lack of communication. They don't talk to each other. They don't communicate. It's either shouting or insulting, a lot of humiliation, a lot of anger and rage. Subhanallah. This is not how Allah described the relationship between the spouses. That there has to be mercy, compassion between them. And Allah Azza wa Jal described the man and wife as being cloth or clothes to each other. So there is a big problem between the spouses, and it has to be addressed by the media, it has to be addressed by the imams in the masjid, it has to be addressed by the parents. Before you get your daughter married, you have to give her the proper counseling, and you have to advise her about her obligations. You have to show her that it's not going to be like it was in her father's house. Likewise, your son has to be disciplined. He has to be taught and coached how to treat a woman, in the sense of taking care of her character, taking care of her feelings, having more compassion and love to her, not always demanding that his clothes are ironed and washed and the house is clean and the food is cooked and that is it. This is not marriage. You can get a servant to do these things for you. So having 4 months of no intimacy is something weird. There's something wrong. This is not normal at all. There is a problem. But does this affect the marriage? Because some people think that if the marriage is affected by not having sex, not having intercourse, so they believe that if there isn't intimacy between the spouses for more than 4 months, then the marriage is void and it does not count. And this is wrong. A marriage can go on forever, 10 years, 20 years, without even having any intimacy between the spouses. If this is how they want it, then this is okay. But if one of them is being harmed by this and it's affecting him negatively, then this becomes haram. The other party should give the other one their rights, their God-given rights of intimacy and of having pleasure. The second question is it fard for me to look after his parents? So is it mandatory for a woman to take care of her husband's parents and her in-laws? And the answer is no. This is not mandatory. This is not something obligatory. It is not fard. It's not your duty. Your duty is to take care of your husband and his children. Other than that, it is not mandatory at all. And I know that a lot of the families are based as a fact that their daughter-in-law is the servant of the house. A lot of the mothers-in-law take it for granted, saying that my daughter-in-law, my son's wife, she's obliged to cook for me, to clean my clothes, to take my orders. Not only that, a lot of the father and mothers-in-law control their daughter-in-law. So they tell her what to do, who to see and who not to see, when to go out and who not to allow in her house. And this is not to them. She is not your slave. She is your daughter-in-law, and this is not the Arabic word of it, but this is what they say in English. She is your daughter-in-law, but you have no control, none whatsoever, over her. Your control is on your son, and your son can control his wife. But you do not have any control over your daughter-in-law. She is not obliged to serve you, to cook for you, to clean the house for you. This is not, and she is entitled for her own house. You don't have the right to force your wife to live with you and with your parents or with your siblings, as a lot of the Muslims do. This is not right. She's a stranger to your siblings. So she is entitled to have her own chambers. She's entitled to wear whatever she wants in her own house, not to restrict her to wearing hijab and fully covering in front of your brothers. And it is even worse if she doesn't cover in front of your brothers. These are not Islamic houses. So, no, you're not obliged to serve his parents, but it is highly recommended. Again, don't look at your rights, but also take a look at your obligations. It is highly recommended for you to please your husband through serving his parents. Though it's not mandatory, but it is very advisable, because it is the way to your husband's heart. And it would be logical for you to do something that would please him, rather than insisting on not doing anything except what is obliged upon you. Because then he would come and say, okay, I will only do what is obliged on me as well, and I would prevent you from doing this and that. And this is not the way that marriage, a successful marriage, takes place. I believe we have a break, so stay tuned.
Tension there. What about the North Korean nuclear program and the six-party talks? How will the tension there affect a relationship between US and China?
They did that early in 1993, and after long discussion and negotiation, finally they stopped their program.
Will the world be able to stop this flow of secrets? Will it affect international relations? Or were there simply basic known facts for most experts and most diplomats?
And we don't know if there's more to come. It's information war.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Sister Fawz from Saudi Arabia has another question, and she says that if a Muslim expat working in a Muslim country intends to return back to his non-Muslim country as they are there for career and result of uncertainty surrounding the work, affecting morale and causing distress. Though their house is in their original non-Muslim country where they intend returning to, but they are not prevented from following Islam. Would it be okay Islamically to return along with the family and young children? If I understand the question correctly, it's about what most Muslims face when migrating, or partly working outside their own countries. People in Europe, people in non-Muslim countries, their dream is to come to Muslim countries and work there. Where they can hear the adhan 5 times a day, when they can have halal food, and where their women would be able to cover properly without being harassed or looked down at, and where they can practice Islam freely. Now, this is their dream. And to tell you the truth, this is a valid dream, because it is a nightmare to live in a non-Islamic environment. Even if it's so-called Muslim country, but it's un-Islamic environment, it's a nightmare. So those who come, they're faced with a situation, and that is eventually, inevitably, they have to go back to their country one day or the other. And they're asking, is this permissible to go back to our countries or not? Is it permissible to go back to our countries with choosing this, not being forced to do this, but we choose to go back to our countries or not? It depends from one case to the other. Sometimes it is advisable to stay if you are able to stay. And this is when the kids are going to Islamic schools and they're memorizing the Quran, and your wife is engaged in da'wah work, and your husband is also working and attending classes and gaining knowledge, learning Arabic. MashaAllah, this is a win-win situation. Everybody's happy. We go once a month, once a year in July or in August for vacation. We see our families and then go back to this Islamic country for work. So this is a win-win situation. The problem is that if you are not able to gain these things, and your children are growing up in an Islamic country, being segregated, alhamdulillah, girls from boys, they're wearing the hijab, the boys are attending salat, but at a certain period or stage of your life, they have to go back to their own countries. And then this is the cultural shock that they would be faced with. After being in schools that are segregated for 7-8 years, now you're putting them in public schools and it's mixed. Now this is not acceptable. This is not possible, because it would cause them a great shock. Some of these kids were unable to cope, and some of them were so happy to be in such an environment, they were melted down in this melting pot, and they just went with the flow. So you don't have a one answer that fits all. It depends from one family to the other. But eventually, you have to remember that you have to immune your children, that one day we're going back to this polluted environment, and we have to be the cream of the society. We have to be the true Muslims, the practicing Muslims, those who give da'wah, those who do not join the non-Muslims in their activities and would always come on top in their moral conduct, in their behavior, in their excellence of work and study. So they have a lot of things going for them, and they have a lot of things going against them. Therefore, the way I see it, if a person has a problem in the country that he's living in, the Muslim country, due to uncertainty regarding work conditions or for any other reason, and he has to go back to his country, especially if he is not oppressed in his country. There are countries that you can practice Islam freely without any problem, maybe better than Muslim countries. For example, the UK, mashallah, people practice Islam in the UK beautifully, and life goes beautifully in harmony. There is no tension. Women wear the hijab. People go to pray in the masjid. Nobody's harassing them. They can eat halal food. There are halal outlets for them to eat. So everything is in their way. Again, it's not an Islamic environment, but it is one of the best in Europe. So if one has to go back to his country eventually, then I believe that there is nothing wrong in doing this choice a bit earlier if there are benefits for him, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. Naseem sends us 3 questions. The first one is, if I have bought gold for the purpose of getting my children married in the future, do I need to pay zakat on it? So this is one scenario. The second scenario, that you yourself want to get married and you're saving money. Do I have to pay zakat for it? The third scenario, I'm saving money to build a house, or to do this, or to have an operation, a medical operation. May Allah protect us all. Or I want to buy a car and I'm saving money. Do I have to pay zakat? The answer to all these questions is yes. Whenever you save money and you have the money in your possession and it reaches the nisab, which is the limit, that whatever is below it, there is no zakah, and whatever is above it, there is zakah. And the nisab is 595 grams of silver, the equivalent of that. And if you have 1 year that passes over this amount of money in your possession, after 1 lunar year, you have to give 2.5% of it for zakat. Any money that you save, you have to give 2.5 after 1 year for zakat, except if the money is not yours, or if the money does not belong to anyone. And how could that be? For example, we want to build a mosque. So this brother gives 10,000, the other one gives 100,000, and the third one gives 5,000, and we're saving the money. And a whole year passes, and the money is not enough to build a mosque. Do I give zakat? The answer is no. Why is that? Because the money does not belong to a particular individual. Likewise, a group of 1,000 people, friends in a company, they say, we would like to open a wallet or a pot where we put our donations in. So one puts 100, another puts 500, and so on. And they collect a lump sum of money. This money does not belong to any one of them. No one has the right to take back anything that he had given. But they agreed on spending this money for the needs of any of the 1,000 who participated once they have a problem. So if they have, for example, an accident, one of them has an accident, his house gets on fire, may Allah protect us all. They agreed initially, before they gave this money or donated this money, that whoever needs the money to solve a calamity or a problem, he can take from it and it's his. So this is collaborating on virtue. This is contribution on good things. Therefore, there isn't an owner for that money. So even if a year or 2 or more passes, we don't give zakat over this money because it does not belong to anyone. His second question is, one of my friends says that during Ramadan, sleeping is also a form of worship. Is this true? It depends. If this person is sleeping during the month of Ramadan with the intention that when he wakes up, he utilizes his time in worshiping Allah, in remembering Allah, in reading the Quran, in offering night prayer, the answer is yes. But if he sleeps during the daytime so that he would not suffer or feel the hunger or thirst or become tired, then definitely his sleeping is not a form of ibadah. We have another question for Brother Naseem, but I believe that we have just run out of time. So until we meet next time, fi amanillah, wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Is my heart's speech. Your mercy is what I beseech. Keep in my heart your remembrance, and in your deen allow me to advance. Help me in my quest. Permit me to pass the ultimate test. Help me in my quest.